Welcome everyone to another playthrough. Final fight this time. Metro City, a well-known crime capital, has been ruled by violence. I know I've got to talk quickly here. A fact which the newly elected mayor, Street Fighter Mike Hagar, plans to change. At the centre of the problem is the huge gang known as Mad Gear. Mad Gear controls all of the something. When they learned of Hagar's plans, they're going to try and flipping blackmail the guy. Hee, Mr. Hagar, so please don't hang up. We have a little business proposition for you. So the guy who phones Hagar at the beginning here is actually not the main boss, is it? It's the guy that you fight at the end of the first level, I believe. So that's an interesting choice, in that you would think it would be the main dude, but you kind of defeat him at the end of the level, and then first level, and then who are you going to encounter after that? Well, it turns out a lot of characters that ended up in Street Fighter Alpha, which I didn't mention in my retrospective and review, but because I wanted to focus on Final Fight, not so much the legacy of Final Fight, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the characters, I'll point them out. The ones that I remember, obviously there's Guy, who was in Street Fighter Alpha. So we've got Guy, Cody, who's the kind of middle guy, and Hagar. At the arcades, I never used to play Hagar. I always used to play Guy. So settle in. I'm talking kind of after the fact again, because I kind of enjoyed that last time. It gave me more of an opportunity to formulate my thoughts rather than trying to have a coherent, speak coherently while playing. I have done that, but it's a different kind of voiceover. I think this is an opportunity for me to think in a little bit more depth about things. So at the time when I was going to the arcades, Final Fight was the kind of default fighter, the one that I felt like came before everything else. Of course it didn't. Double Dragon is really the candidate for that, but I think Double Dragon, in my recollection, is that was seeming dated, even though it only came out, I think, 2 years before Final Fight. It was, I mean, things have always progressed quickly with games. They evolve so quickly. 2 years seems like a long time, and Double Dragon was one that, and I think it was just slightly out of my age bracket. I think someone slightly older than me would probably put Double Dragon where I put Final Fight. So Final Fight was like the default fighter that I kind of remember, and I was interested in coming back to see how that sense of it being a big, the big sprites, it was one of those big arcade screens and big characters on the screen, and you can definitely see that playing now. They are big front and center characters. In terms of the skill of the game, I have watched a playthrough with someone. I watch a lot of these ones where on YouTube, there's pretty much playthroughs of everything on YouTube, but there are definitely some ones. Usually they tend to be with these arcades that I've watched so far. Someone in Japan will go through and be able to complete the game in this way. No miss. It's a Japanese phrase to mean kind of like no death or no mistakes. I think it means no death is the more accurate description of a no miss playthrough, in that the ones I've watched, they do get hit and stuff, they just don't die. So it is absolutely possible, but it's skill of a type, but really it's more about knowing the quirks of the AI and mechanics of the game, and being able to, I wouldn't say exploit, but knowing the way the game functions inside and out. So for instance, there's a way to kill enemies when you do your combo. If you go through to the end of the combo, generally what you do, all of the characters do, is knock the character down, and they'll have like half health left, at which point they get up and you do the combo again. But you can do this thing where you hit them twice, then stop, turn away, turn back, and keep hitting them, so they never fall down. You can kill all the enemies in that fashion. and that's just one trick that I've seen. And the skill to be able to hit very, very fast. You know, the way I'm hitting with my combos seems positively lethargic by comparison to how fast a skilled player can play this game. Sometimes there's a question as to whether or not they're really hitting the button as fast as that, or they just have a feature on the version that they're playing which will be essentially rapid fire. Just hold down the button and the computer will do it for you. But I remember that being a thing all the way back in the day of the Mega Drive. Yeah, the character designs are cool and pretty varied. The usual kind of character color swaps as time goes on, but I do think it's true that by about halfway through, maybe even before that, you've seen a version of the characters, all the characters. They do continue to be original bosses all the way up to the end, which is nice. Remember it always being there in the arcade, but I don't actually remember playing it that much. I think there were other games I would gravitate to before Final Fight, but it was always kind of one there that was fun to play. But I never really prioritized it as one that I wanted to get to the end of. But I think it's the basic draw of the satisfaction of the combos, and with these arcade games and stuff, with them being so close to the kind of the beginnings of video gaming, some of the fundamentals of what makes games fun come to the fore, don't they? And with a beat 'em up, now that we have things as complicated as Sekiro is a recent one that, you know, has a lot of mechanics going on, a lot of options for combat and what you do in certain situations. You have so many options, so many complicated things that you can do. But what are the fundamentals of a beat 'em up and what makes them fun? And playing something like Final Fight reminds you of that. It's the satisfaction of the hits. It's something to do with the sound effects. It's that responsiveness. When I hit the attack button, does the character respond immediately? Is it fast? Is it satisfying to hit the enemies? And it is. And you need that in every beat 'em up, no matter how complicated things get with counters and special moves and stuff. Those core fundamentals of beat 'em ups, definitely there with Final Fight. And I think that accounts for a lot of its success. It just feels good to attack these characters. This is the best way to actually defeat Andor and his various versions all the way through. You just kind of flying kick between them, unless he does that. But it's boring. The best ways to win are kind of pretty unsatisfying, really. So it's not actually much fun to do them. There's a fight later on with two of the Andor characters in a ring, and really you beat them by flying kick, just doing flying kicks between the two, alternating. But man, is that boring to do. Big fat guys are possibly the most annoying for that little. One of the little unfair quirks of the game, they often run in and headbutt you from off screen, so they are a little bit cheesy. Some nice backgrounds and stuff. I feel like I took them for granted somewhat. I don't think they particularly call attention to themselves. I did mention that in my review. The characters do, but the backgrounds don't. If I compare it to something like Shadow Warriors, the backgrounds in that game really come to the fore, and that's weird, isn't it? Backgrounds in the foreground. When I think of Shadow Warriors, I think of the levels like the rain-soaked streets. I think there is rain effects in the foreground at certain points, and if you think of the background bit where it's part of the level where you're kind of overarm going along the poles and stuff. The background actually is part of the gameplay. You know, it comes to the fore and makes you think about the background, and you feel part of the world. That doesn't really happen in Final Fight. You're just kind of going through these generic areas. Actually, watching it now gives me an opportunity to look at the crowd, which I didn't do while I was playing. It's a good character to be using against Sodom. So Sodom is one of the characters that appeared in Street Fighter Alpha. His name was changed at some point because of the association with sodomy, but I can't remember what version of the game changed that. So the way to beat him is just grab his sword and keep doing that, which I do figure out by the end of this. Yeah, but I think there was only one version of the game that changed his name to Katana, was it? But almost every other version of the game is Sodom. So, the first appearance of this smash the car thing, which you think of as Street Fighter 2 innovation, but actually Final Fight is where it happened. So it's sometimes hard to tell if you've smashed it enough on one side. I think when you get the tinny sound, that's when you've done enough damage. Go up a little bit, dude. I kind of like Hagar now, more than I did. I like a variety of characters now. I think when I was a kid, you're more kind of, there's the cool character and you just want to play that character, whereas now I'm like, no, I want to play all the characters. We associate with Hagar less because he's, what is it, Hagar? I don't know. Because it, that did make me laugh. He's the big dude. He's the older dude. He's the one that you associate with least as a child. I think you want to be the ninja, or at least I did. Cody's like Han Solo. He's the cool dude, and Guy's like Luke Skywalker. He's the young, fast, quick one. It'd be nice if just when you're surrounded like that. I mean, you can do the spin with Hagar, but if you could just do a couple more wrestling moves in this situation and clear them out a little bit more. But it'd be too easy, wouldn't it? If there was a move that you could use without any downsides, like the spinning attacks and stuff, it would just be too easy. You just do that repeatedly. That's the kind of the lack of sophistication in what you can do in the combat, I guess, is where that comes from, you know, because there are no counters, no blocks, no Street Fighter-esque special moves to execute that make the combat complicated. That would all have to be in place, and then perhaps you could put in some moves that do clear out the enemies if you're skilled enough to execute them and time them correctly. Then it's a skill-based escape from death, but there's nothing like that in the game, so your most powerful moves just have to have an immediate downside, which is draining your health, I guess. This guy Wong Hu. You know, I'm not sure if that is when they translate stuff, if it's a joke and from the English translation, just to give him a name like Hu, Wong Hu. Because it's I've never heard of a Japanese person called Hu. And if they were, it wouldn't be spelt W-H-O. That's an English spelling, I think. This is one of the weirdest bits in it. So he runs up and just grabs you. If you could do that, if you were that stupid and he was capable of doing that, wouldn't they just do that from the beginning? So I don't. I mean, I don't do very well throughout this entire playthrough, really. But particularly here, I think I die a few times. Do I fall back on the flying kick thing? I'm not sure. The way the weapons are laid out and the fact that if you're just over them and press attack does cause you to pick them up when you don't want to, which is annoying at times. I'm so used to this continue screen that I'd forgotten the psychological manipulation that they're trying to do there. You know, the character is tied up with dynamite, and you know, if you don't press continue, they're gonna die, kind of thing. It's weird, those little quirks that you just take for granted, but it's an interesting little trick, isn't it? Trying to guilt you into putting another 10 pence in. So here's poison. Didn't realise anything about the questions to do with poison's gender at all. It never occurred to me that anyone would even think twice about there being female characters, but I guess in those days, yeah, you can't beat up women, but you can beat up someone who's had a sex change or is a transvestite. Okay. That's ridiculous. Like, you can either beat up everyone, in no matter their gender, no matter their race, no matter their, you know, if they're a cyborg, whatever they are. Everyone's fair game in a beat 'em up, I think. That's the only way to be fair about these things. It's fantasy, it's not real. It's all nonsense. So this guy's interesting. I wonder what his backstory is. What, Eddie? Is he a character in Alpha? He may have been. It doesn't immediately spring to mind, though. So I wonder what his story is. He's on the payroll. He's accepted the bribe, where Hagar hasn't. Maybe he's the chief of police. He's got a freaking gun, which is ridiculous. Used to watch so many kung fu films when I was a kid. That's where you get the idea that when you're a child, if you learn karate, you can be if 6 guys attack you, you can somehow have the skill and the ability to kill them all, because Jackie Chan can do it. No, you realise that's a movie. No. It's a documentary. It's possible. It's all based on actual real-life events. There was a guy with sunglasses at this point. Yeah, you know, he's just giving me lips. I kicked the shit out of him. No, you didn't. Use your ability. Just know the timing here, don't you? I do actually. You know, I thought I might be able to do it without getting hit, but the first time it's absolutely horrible. So two hits. Don't get hit again. Come on. 3. You'd just run forward at this stage, wouldn't you? Just run past absolute... You know, I don't care. I'm leaving. Construction site. Building under construction here. So the layout of the health is interesting. There are a couple of occasions where it appears after a big battle, but majority of the time the health seems to appear when you need it the least. When you're doing okay. I mean, that could just be fluke when I happen to have died, but it doesn't get you out of trouble as often as you would hope. It's interesting that they did choose to give the characters, the enemy NPCs, specific names, you know, because it does stretch credulity, doesn't it? Like, here's poison again. So is it the same poison? She's just getting up, but then no, because you fight several of them at certain times. But they wouldn't have as much character, I guess, if you took away the names. Generic Thug 1, Generic Thug 2. Coming up here is Relento, who's a character from Alpha, who I'd forgotten all about. You know, I would never have got to... I did never get to this stage. I never got this far in the arcade, so when I played Alpha, which I played a ton, on home systems more than arcades. I assume Alpha was in the arcades, but I'm not sure. I played it on... What would I have played it on? Super Nintendo? I was completely unaware of the... I was aware that Guy was from Final Fight, but that was the only one. I didn't know about Sodom. I didn't know about Relento. I remember him being a particularly tricky character because he got all the flips that come from the way he fights here in this boss battle, which is very cheesy with the grenades and everything. These weird, what are they? Mustachioed dictator dudes. This guy looks like a crazy mercenary from some war or other. I don't know. I feel like the first time I played this guy, he died so easily, and this time it was a lot harder. Maybe he'd upped his game from my first playthrough. So he doesn't have as good... He's a lot slower in the air, Hagar, and his hits are slower. Like I say, I don't think it makes that much difference, really. You know, the characters, although they do play differently. I don't know whether one is better than another. It's kind of not nearly as interesting and fun as the beat up the car thing, is it? If this was the best idea you were going to come up with, which is not a good idea, just smash a load of glass. You're just like, well, just do another car, because that's better than smash a ton of glass. Well, that actually looks like a meatpacking factory. Maybe if there were carcasses you were just smacking. And there is actually a timer up in the top, isn't there? And I was looking at that at various points in the playthrough and thinking, I wonder what the time is. Does the time go down when you get hit? Because every time I looked at it, it seemed to be stuck on a particular number. It is going down, but incredibly slowly. So it's hardly even worth it being there. Maybe it's just a convention of the time, like it couldn't be here forever. Well, I guess if you didn't have a time limit, then the game would, say someone walked away from the arcade, then the character would just be sitting there. But then that would mean whoever came along got a free game. But I guess it wouldn't go to like the title screen and the music or the cycling graphics that are supposed to catch people's attention in passing. So they do want it to go to that default screen, maybe. That's why everything has a time limit. Yeah, it's like the waterfront here, which I do remember as I think about this one quite a lot, but it's such a bland background. Look at that. Just like the repeating cityscape and just this boring grey pavement up to the waterfront. Let's put a dog in there. Why is the dog there? Just a developer had a little bit of time just to pixel art a dog. There's Wong Hu again. Bill Bull, Wong Hu, and G. Oriba. I wonder why they didn't call it, if they're so inspired by musicians and 80s bands and stuff, they should have called one of these guys Meatloaf or something. I suppose they are Japanese dudes, so that wouldn't quite work. Sammo. They should have called him Sammo Hung. Who was, like, he turned up in a load of Jackie Chan's movies. Slightly overweight guy who's nevertheless able to do backflips and all this acrobatic shit. No, Bill Bull isn't Japanese. He's got a big... He looks more Western. Smash all the barrels, just in case there's anything in there. Some beer. I think there was a... What was it? A bottle in the Japanese version? On one of the things I was reading, there was a whiskey bottle that you smashed. That was taken out. Interesting. I wonder whether that was taken out because of we don't want to encourage kids to drink, or we don't want to encourage kids to glass one another. It's probably the drinking, in that weird way. It's like, no, it's fine to glass someone, just we don't want to encourage people to drink too much. But the drinking leads to the glassing. Yeah, but just take it out. It's too complicated. React, you do. You up it. So I mentioned Streets of Fire, which is apparently a favourite of the developers. But the thing is that tale, I have heard that tale, and it's in the wiki for the game. But actually on Wikipedia, when you read the entry, there's no citation where that comes from. And, you know, no one has named a specific developer who has said that. It's just like a thing that is known. But then things that are known can sometimes become known just because someone has kind of made it up. And then, you know, unless you can actually cite something. That's why I said in the review there's conflicting reports, because it's not clear, you know, which developers actually said. And I believe there is one developer who said, no, I had no idea about that movie. But I did watch it. It's awful. I did a little bit of reading up on how that movie came to be. It's an early, is it Joel Silver movie? And listening to the creators of it, it's an interesting case study in that idea of when you're in the midst of something, it's not always easy to be objective about the merits of a thing. You know, they were so optimistic about it doing well and stuff, and it bombed at the box office, which doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but it is bad as well. It bombed and it is also bad. Its bombing was justified, unlike Blade Runner, which is awesome but also bombed. Yeah, it's just bad. It's just bad. But it's a dark sort of 80s thing with like motorcycle gangs and a central character who's a bit good at fighting, rescuing a girlfriend. So you can see some of the similarities, but it did occur to me that it's like someone's just watched this and noticed that the main guy's name is also Cody, and it's the only other Cody we're aware of who has that slightly silly macho name, and then decided to write on Wikipedia, yeah, this inspired Final Fight. Well, who said that? Anyway, that's enough about a movie that may or may not have anything to do with this game. wallop. You know, if you didn't know better, you'd think I planned that. So stun lock there. You just managed to get out of it with a spinning attack. I just mash both of the buttons. But yeah, it is annoying. It would be fun to play Street Fighter Alpha again, but I'm trying to, in the sequence of videos that I'm doing initially for this channel, I'm trying to do a variety of games. So I don't want to go from a beat 'em up to a fighting game. They're too close. So I've got to find something a little bit different for the next one. I'm thinking completely different genre. I do have Starblade, a run for Starblade ready to go, so that might be the next one. Just to keep things, you know, all the different genres and stuff. Although anyone thinking about doing YouTube and stuff, worth mentioning, it just wants you to do the same thing over and over and over again. You could probably do a channel that was not just arcade games, that was specific genre of arcade games. Everything tends towards just do the same thing repeatedly. Yeah, so Cody's better with the knives than the others. I didn't notice a big difference with him, but apparently that's the thing. And Guy can jump off walls, which he could do in the in Street Fighter Alpha. I've forgotten all about that, but I just didn't do it in the playthrough. I wonder if you can. I should have gone in and tried after the fact when I learnt that, just to see how Guy does it. Whether he can jump off the side of the screen or he needs an actual wall in the level to do it. Not sure. I'm not sure at which point, even if it's stopped being a thing, but it seems to be less prevalent now. Like the food pickups were always like a full chicken, or a rib steak and stuff. Back all the I remember Gauntlet being the first one where I encountered that. There you go. And what is that? Is that a burger or is that like a panini sandwich? I'm not sure. Come on, spin. No. There's only two there, so it's not worth spinning, is it? So is that a mountain in the background? So that was good in that there, you know, we had a little bit of food there to. Yeah. Oh, it's the Statue of Liberty. Look. This is a good thing about not trying to talk while you're playing. You can have a look at the backgrounds, see if they are as uninspired as you think, and I think they probably are. Is the sun shining at the, like, is that the Death Star firing a beam of, a death beam, a Kyber beam at the Statue of Liberty, or is the Statue of Liberty pissing on the sun? I'm not sure. That's some skill if she is. Oh, this asshole. Based on the guys... What were the guy... What's that band? With the face paint. It's not Poison. Some band or other. So I don't know if the Abigail name also is like one of the musicians from a band like that. You can punch him out of that. You just got to time it with Hagar. I think with... There you go. With Guy, you can probably just spam his basic attack, can't you? That's the way out over there on the right. In case we were wondering. Don't walk into the sea. The way out is right. Roxy as in Roxy Music. Wham. That guy caused me a load of troubles, and I'm not even sure if he's technically a full boss. Is he just a mini boss? I don't like his little punch there. His little slap. What up? Come to the end of my coffee there. What a nice thing to be able to do on an afternoon, just watch some gameplay and chat over it. I do enjoy doing this. It's I think this is my most enjoyable part of the process of doing these videos, just chatting while watching some gameplay. It's what I enjoy on Twitch. Look, he's getting that little hit in. So annoying. See what Cody can do. What an asshole. That's it. Just keep doing that, really. Don't try and do anything else. Just flying kick the guy. No, there you go. You'll probably just do that all the way through. So he was the end boss. Okay. Well, I feel a bit better that he was kicking my ass there. Looking at these signs in the background, confectionery country of the Nin Nin, POM, Capcom, near in the middle there. It's like the what version of Coca-Cola, Metro City version of Coca-Cola near. Okay, and whiskey. Ah, that's interesting. Well, if they took the bottles out, they haven't taken the whiskey sign out of the background. Are there any other signs there that are kind of allusions to actual products and stuff? Don't think so, apart from Capcom. Which is just the word Capcom, so I'm not sure that counts. As a reference. I like the little as he does the uppercut there. It's just satisfying sound design, it's good. Look out for the chandelier. You didn't see it, did you? Your memory and skills have failed you. Oh, is this asshole again? So one of the little strategies is kind of remembering to throw the enemies at the enemies, you know. And it comes down to just who's around you at the time, but remember to throw left or throw right according to who's behind you. Something that I wasn't really doing enough. It's unlocked. You know, knock them down with the pile driver and then fight the guy on the other side, but it's such a pain. Belger, who you fight at the end. It's interesting that we never get a sense of who he is from the intro or the outro. There's no information about who he might be. He just turns up in a wheelchair, knock him out of the wheelchair, and then he's got a crossbow, weirdly. So obviously Kingpin is the guy in charge. Maybe you don't need to know anything else, but usually the nemesis, the antagonist in a thing, you would know a little bit about them and feel like you've got a sense of who they are. If you compare it to something like Golden Axe, Death Adder is mentioned from the very beginning, I think, in the as the main antagonist, the guy who you're trying to get, and you get a sense of him all the way through. These are his minions that he's sending against you, and he's going to be the ultimate guy you need to defeat. He's just a big bad guy. We don't get to know him, like what his favourite tipple is of an evening, but we know who he's the dude, and Belger is kind of like, well, it's just this weird random guy up at the top of a high rise. He's no Death Adder, let's put it that way. The Andors. Andor Jr., who I assume has slightly less health than Andor. He's exactly the same size as his father. This is the guy's garden then, isn't it? That's the pool in the background. Never noticed that. Oh, diving board. You know, a little bit of animation in the background there. Why can't we see, like, Belger's, maybe his trophy wife, lounging by the pool and, I don't know. Someone diving off the diving board. Condominiums in the background. Whack, whack, whack. It's interesting what, like, because I think without the addition of, like, the Andor characters and stuff, to spice things up, the Axel, like, the basic thugs are quite generic, aren't they? But just with these guys, there's these weird guys, tall, lanky guys, there's big, muscle-bound Andor guys, there's fat guys, there's all these different things. Just those little things just make it a little bit more varied in terms of the characters. Let's see if I can miss this actual first chandelier here. It's not a surefire thing. There's two moves that they do. They did them there. The slide, which is a pain in the butt, and the jump with the knives sticking down. Which I don't know if once he's in his routine, kind of flying through the air, whether there's any way to dodge that. I don't think you can move up fast enough to dodge it, or jump and kick fast enough. You know, my nemesis in many games has been the chandelier. It's, you know, you think you've got it sussed and you can see it on the horizon, but for some reason you just think this time it won't fall, and it always does. I think it's because I'm an optimist. I just hope for the best. Maybe I should be more pessimistic and guard against it. Never mind. Come on, jump. Oh god, just smacked out of midair. So, in terms of other memories of this game that I may or may not have, I can't remember any specific instances of playing this in a particular arcade or with a particular person. If I played it with my brother, I can't remember, or any friends and stuff, but it was always there. I do remember playing it. Well, I obviously played it at some point, but it's not one of those specific memories, you know, you remember where you were and who you were playing with, which is a shame. I would like to access some of those memories, because apparently there's a lot in your brain that is there and you just need to unlock it. It kind of happens when you encounter someone you haven't seen for many years. I talked to a friend who I haven't talked to, and he was remembering loads of stuff, and as soon as he mentioned it, I remembered it. So there are memories lurking there that you just don't have access to, and sometimes you just, there we are, I'm doing the cheese here. I'm the cheese. I am the cheese. I've got cheese. I've often thought about doing something like, are there people who can like train you to access memories that you've forgotten about? I'm not talking about suppressed memories. I know that's a therapy thing, like getting to the bottom of a suppressed traumatic memory, but I just want access to more memories. Can I? How can I do that? It'd definitely be useful in terms of doing retrospectives on YouTube. If I could remember more stuff. Oh god, that was my fault. If you were quick enough, you would see the shadows. Hollywood, Elgato, and yeah, two Hollywoods and an Elgato. Looks a bit like Castro, doesn't he? beating up Castro. Don't dictate to people. You're a dirty dictator. I don't know what the hell that statue is in the background. It looks like a pregnant woman carrying 2 plates. She may also be have a penile there, like this lady, like this gentleman, like this human. It is weird, some of the stuff that was considered the weird decisions that were made in the past with regards to stuff like this. I mean, it's still complicated these days, but I don't think anyone would do like a gender swap or something to make something okay. It's weird. There's also a cultural difference to do with the Western attitudes to that kind of thing and stuff in Japan, which you've got to be, right, if you're going to be accepting and tolerant of people. You know, you got to... Sometimes it's weird, the stuff... You can't say, well, that's wrong. Well, it's a different culture. It's not necessarily wrong. But it is wrong. In the case of that decision with poison, I think. Nothing wrong with having a transgender person in a game. But the fact is, you know, it was made that way because for a reason that was completely... not to do with that. It's like, well, and actually in other games for the Western release, they just did what they should have done in the beginning, which was, if you're worried about men beating up women, then just change the female character to a man, which they did later. I can't remember exactly which versions of the game, but later ports of I think the sequels and stuff. So you have to actually throw him. I mean, like, if you're going to be sensitive about beating up women, how do you feel about beating up a disabled guy with a crossbow? Okay, this didn't cause concern. But again, you know, there are weird attitudes to disability in Japan as well. They have a completely different approach to that, and that is uncomfortable for Western. There's a particular Jackie Chan film, which is a mild example of this, with a guy who's like deaf and dumb, and he's fighting him. It's really, really bad. So he's a faker, that's okay. He's like the Big Lebowski. But he does, look how Belger is standing. He's almost standing like he is in pain. He's like, it's a struggle for him to stand. He's like clutching his arm close to his body and hold it like he hasn't got much. I don't know, but you know, it's your legs that are a problem if you're in a wheelchair, so I'm sure that follows. He's nearly down. I'm very dissatisfied with the way I ultimately beat this guy, which is to continue and then just kick him out the window. Screw it. Who cares? I'm trying to get close to him, but you go up and down the screen so slowly. Go with Guy. Go with Guy. Go with God. Go with Guy. Bye. First game I've played for this channel where I feel like it actually does have a little bit of an ending here. Oh, father. I was so scared. Yeah, well, you're a woman. It's bound to happen. You need a man to come and rescue you. I'm so glad to see they didn't hurt you. I'm so sorry, Jessica. I thought I'd lost you, like I lost your mother. I'll never let anything bad happen to you again. It's weird, isn't it? It's tragic how many people suffer the same exact loss and go on to make become the star of their own computer game and or film. There's some staff there. This little I do like this little stroll back through the levels. What I thought was going to happen was you just stroll right all the way back to the beginning, but that doesn't happen. Something kind of weird happens, which I won't spoil. Character design scroll. Ponji 1 Mickey Man. You'd just stop at you'd go to Belgia's bar, wouldn't you? Get a couple of whiskies and have a little sit on by the pool there. This is so weird. So he kicks the shit out of him, so he stops and talks to his girlfriend. I suppose that's the only interaction really they can do, because there's no other animations in the game. Where are you going? How can you just walk away now? Well, I'm not walking. You can see my feet there. Interesting choice. I want to stay here with you, Jessica, but I can't. Not while evil still stalks the streets. Oh, Cody. Oh, God. It's so much better in Streets of Rage, where we have a badass woman to fight along with. All right, thank you for watching through. I enjoyed this. I learned an awful lot about Final Fight, and I hope you enjoyed watching. If you would like to check out some retrospectives and more of my stuff, hopefully they'll be coming up on screen for you to choose from. Also, you might like to consider subscribing. I try and do these videos fairly regularly. So, bye for now.